Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Brentwood Baptist Leadership Podcast. I'm Bill Ferrell, and this month we're focusing on leadership. And today we're talking about something that shapes every leader more than they may realize, their calendar. That's right, because your calendar reflects your priorities, it shapes your time, your relationships, your effectiveness, and even, get this, your health. That's right. All these conversations are leading up to the Elevate Church Conference, which will be held here at Brentwood Baptist on September 21st and 22nd. And today I'm joined by my good friend Brian Coates, and we're going to talk about balancing meetings, one-on-ones, strategy, and soul care in a way that is actually sustainable. So let's jump into all that, Brian. Tell us, hey, why does a leader's calendar reveal so much about what they actually value?
Well, you can either look at a calendar as just a scheduling tool, or does it really show your strategic priorities?
Okay.
And when you're looking at a calendar rather than just, hey, this is what I compile of what I do, and really say this is how I set my priorities, that's when you start to take a different view of how you manage your time. And so when you look at somebody's calendar and it's filled up with meetings, or it's filled to the brim with things one after another, you can tell that they're being controlled by their time rather than dictating what they are strategically prioritizing and what they value.
Yeah.
So it shows right off the bat, like, this is where I'm putting my time, my energy, and my attention. So it shows your priorities more than anything else.
Yeah. Okay. What happens when a leader lets their calendar become more reactive instead of intentional?
Yeah. I think that everybody probably has some times when it is more reactive. Like, there are just seasons that demand more of, like, hey, like I talked to my administrative assistant and she says, you've got to be here. I get it. Like, that's a reactive thing.
Yeah.
But if you're constantly being driven by the decisions or actions of others to determine your time, then you're, as a leader, never getting the opportunity to think about what God's called you to do and what He's equipped you to do and what you're supposed to steward. So for me, like, I have to make sure that and we'll talk about this some throughout, I'm sure, how I'm bracketing times to where I'm actually thinking through things in a proactive way to make sure we're advancing what God's called us to do.
Yeah. What all types of things do you put on your calendar? Are you putting personal space on there as well as, business items, or how do you manage that?
For me, the one that I use at work is primarily just work.
Okay.
We've got a family calendar at home.
Okay.
That my wife, that's more full than the work one, just because all the kids. But at work, it's really determined by what's happening during the work week. Yeah. So different meetings, different one-on-ones, different blocks of time that are kind of my white space to do thinking and to plan ahead. But that's really limited to that during the week.
Okay. And your administrative assistant, our administrative assistant, Bryce, who works for both of us, manages both our calendars in a sense. And so we can put our own items on there. She can put items on there as well, And so if you're like me, you probably try to block out a time when either you're going to be not in or you're working from home, obviously I think those things are important. But what are some signs that a leader's their calendar is too full, it's too reactive, it's not prioritized enough, it's too disconnected from what matters most? How would you see that?
I think for me, in my life, it's been when I haven't had those brackets of time to where I can think.
Yeah.
I really try hard to leave at least two windows of time, maybe an hour to 2 hours, two different times during the week, to where I'm just thinking. Not just idly, but going back over some of the strategic priorities or things that do with our mission and our vision.
Sure.
And I'm thinking, all right, hey, I haven't thought about that in a little while. I need to move the ball down the court here. Just give myself some white space, as a mentor called it, to where I can think about the higher priority items.
Yeah. We talk somewhat around here about warning signs when we're getting overloaded or overburdened, or we're running too hot, as they say. The engine is just cranking it full throttle. And so, what are some of those warning signs, if you will, that maybe I might be a little overcommitted these days? Maybe I need to slow it down a bit. What could we tell other leaders to check for?
Yeah, I think for me, one, I always give the caveat, and we talk about this. There are seasons where it's going to be like that. Like,
Yeah, accept it.
I think that you just have to always remind people of that, because there's kind of this idea that you're always going to have this flex time and
Yeah.
you're always going to feel refreshed at the end of the day. But the reality is there are going to be high demand seasons to where you're going to be, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., it's
Yeah.
going to be stacked, and it's just going to be the way it is.
Yeah.
But in general, I think for me, if I'm going week after week after week and it's overscheduled and I'm not having that time and that margin to think, to pray about my schedule, all of those different types of things, I'm going to start to run into that mindset of, man, what have I actually accomplished?
Yeah.
And I think when you have some of those weeks where you're like, what did I actually do? That's a warning sign for me
Have I done
that
anything?
I am just been running to different things and I haven't really been deeply investing in what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, different leaders react differently when they get like that, when they get
Yeah.
busy. I know in my own life, when I find myself getting very short in conversations,
that's good.
or, maybe I'm not sleeping well, which is pretty rare for me. So that's a big warning sign if I'm not sleeping right. I know, okay, I'm thinking about things that weren't done or things that needed to be, or I'm not listening well. My wife will say, do you remember we talked about that yesterday? And if I have to honestly say, no, that's a yellow
I've never
warning
had that
flag.
happen
Yeah,
at all.
okay, no.
Yeah.
Well, yes. But when that happens, it's like we need to read those warning signs, for those leaders who are married. Hey, your wife is one of your best warning indicators, hopefully, that can kind of tell you, hey, you're burning that candle at both ends.
Yeah, and I think that we would both say too, like, for a lot of ministers, the evening activities, I've always tried to make sure that we've had like at least 2 nights of the week and hopefully more to where our family time is not interrupted after work hours.
Yeah.
And those are some of the seasons to where it's like, if I'm spending 3 to 4 nights a week doing other ministry related things, that's a warning sign for me that I need to reprioritize my calendar.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. I have often told younger people I've been coaching or mentoring, if you divide your week out 7 days, and you say there were 3 time frames in each day.
Yeah.
There's a morning time frame, there's an afternoon, there's an evening. So you have 21 time frames in a week. You need to try to be spending 5 or 6 of those with your spouse, your family.
Exactly.
Because if you're only spending 1 or 2, you're not spending enough. That's a big that's a danger sign, for life, and you just have to be aware of that. How do you decide, or should anybody decide, what is worthy of going on the calendar and maybe what's not worthy? Maybe what we need to say no to.
Yeah, I think for us, something we're really familiar with is kind of that priority triangle as we talk about the must-dos. These are the things that we have to do. It's related to our job, things that we have to get done with somewhat of a sense of urgency. Then there are the should-do things. I really keep those as the high priorities. That's kind of what dictates my week.
Okay.
I don't typically keep nice to-dos on the calendar. If I do, it's things that I know that I can push out. Like when I do meet with Bryce, with our administrative assistant, I talk to her about like, somebody wants to meet about something that's not super urgent. And I'm like, that's a nice to do. We can push that down the calendar, but it doesn't need to be in the near term. Okay. And so I try to look at it through the priorities of what I'm doing and what I'm working on throughout the week and the month.
Yeah, I think I do the same thing quite a bit. I try to, figure out what are the things. For instance, later this week, some guys are having a local conference here, and one of my employees said, hey, would you want to stop by and meet some of the people?
Yeah.
That's nice to do. But again, I like to do it. I have time. It's a free lunch. I'm not going to pass up a free lunch.
Never pass up a free lunch.
You try to put those on if you have time. And I said, I'll stop by after I'm in another meeting.
Yeah.
Great. So I think low commitment, but I think that you're right. You have to almost prioritize every single thing that's on there. Right. In a previous episode, we were talking about one-on-ones. To me, those are extremely important. I'm going to prioritize that, or a must do. But I like this idea of these priorities, the must do, the should do, and the nice to do. I think thinking in those categories can help work your calendar better.
Well, and I think one of the things I do is just a practical hack, if you will. And I'm not always able to do this, but as much as possible, I try to keep my Thursday afternoons open to create margin either for that strategic thinking time
Okay. Yeah.
or to be able to fit in some of those nice to-dos. So if I keep that open and it's not demanded by a must-do or should-do priority, then I've got some time to where I can add that in later in the week and say, hey, nothing popped up for Thursday afternoon. Now I can schedule some of those nice to-do items.
Yeah, I think that's good, especially when you're having strategy meetings. You want to make them productive. You don't want them to linger on, but yet you want to have enough time to develop those things. How do you make those less about we're just meeting to have a meeting, or we're talking about future meetings? How do you keep those kind of online to help them be productive?
Yeah, well, I think that's honestly something I think our executive leadership team is trying to explore to do a better job of. Because, I mean, anybody, if you have a weekly meeting rhythm, it's easy to fall into a rut. And none of it's bad. Like, we always have to talk about operational things.
Right.
There's stuff that we just always have to address. And so I think one of the things that we're trying to explore together is how do we employ some of that working genius, that Patrick Lencioni language to shape our meetings to where we're not hitting it perfect, but we're trying to look at like, hey, that first week of the month, we're talking about more of that wonder and invention.
Yeah.
The second week of the month, we're looking at more of like how we're discerning things, or there's some of the priorities we need to discern as a team, and where do we need to galvanize. And then that third week, we're looking at more of, all right, how are we helping our team accomplish a task? So I think it's taking that strategic focus and saying, hey, when we schedule these meetings, we know there's some categories we want to hit in addition to the things that we have to hit on a repeated basis in terms of operations.
Yeah, I think that's good. What are some of the big buckets of categories perhaps that are going to go on your calendar almost every week or every 2 weeks? You know they're going to be there. You schedule them out because they are in this must-do, high should-do category.
Yeah. Well, I think for our rhythms, we know that Mondays are going to be our meeting days.
Okay.
Like we know in the afternoons on Mondays.
Yeah.
And typically some in the morning, those are going to be our meeting days where we review, where we talk about operations and then get some strategic. I think the other big must-dos that are always in there, and you referenced it, and with the number of direct reports that we have, we're always going to have one-on-ones scheduled. Like I got one after we do this.
Right.
So it's like these things are scheduled and they have to be put on there. And then beyond that, like we know we have the high-level trustee meetings, our leadership governance team, our finance team, our staff. Those are the things that get put in the jar first.
Yeah.
And that I know are going to be on a repeated cycle every month.
Yeah. Let's talk about something that some leaders don't put in the jar, but you and I try to, and that's soul care, right? Sustainability. Why is soul care not just a personal issue, but a leadership issue?
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Well, we've been blessed to be in an environment to where as ministers, once a month, we get a soul care day. And it is expected of us to take that. As long as I've been here in the 24 years, that has always been a high value. You need to take your soul care days, get a day away to pray, to think about what the Lord's calling you to do, to reflect on whatever it is.
Yeah.
And we as leaders have to protect that. I know that we've both experienced it, but that's like sometimes we can approach it like, oh, so much stuff is piling up.
Yeah.
That's kind of an expendable thing. I'll take that day back. But really in the past few years, I've just had to calendar it like tomorrow is my soul care day because it's the last Wednesday of the month. And I have to make that a priority because if not, I'll let everything else slide in. Yeah. And I think what we try to model for our team and what we ask them to do is schedule that and protect it like you would any other must-do meeting because it's a must for your soul. Yeah.
How do you actually how can you unplug from the day-to-day demands and actually do soul care? What's your rhythm around that?
Yeah. For me, an ideal day would be to go hike. Go take an hour or two to go
unplug.
Hike. Yeah, just get away, hike for a little bit, pray as I walk. Then I'll normally go to a coffee shop or somewhere, library, sit, read, journal. Just making sure I'm taking that time to really pray, to read God's word, and to write out what I'm thinking, feeling, and what I've seen God do.
Yeah. Do you put an out of office reply on your email? How do people know, hey, you may not be available during this time frame?
No, typically what I do is the day before I go, I send an email to all of the people that report back to me, and I just say, hey, I'm going to be on my prayer retreat day tomorrow. Are there any things that I can be praying for you about?
Okay.
If anything blows up, call Bryce.
Yeah.
And then I do then I put up my out of office for the day, just so everybody knows. And I think it's important too for leaders, like for us to model that. Yeah. And so that if somebody emails me tomorrow when I'm on my prayer retreat day, they know, hey, he's taking this. This is something that he values too.
Yeah, I think modeling that from top down is so important, because I think that some may feel like, hey, we're a high demand environment. We work hard. And so people may think that the expectation is that they wouldn't take it, that, we have it, but we work hard. We check email during it. I can remember in my early years here, and coming up on 7 years now, when my supervisor was Aaron Bryan at the time. And one day I was on prayer retreat and I was hiking on a hike, and he called, and I took that call, and he kind of reprimanded me a little. And then I was like, well, the boss is like, I don't care. I mean, he kind of let me know, when you're off on that, you're off. You be off. You know? And I think one improvement we've actually made in this recently is now we're tracking those through our HR system, right? Yep. And so we request that as a day off like any other. It's going against our soul care days, and I think that's helpful. It's going to be helpful for you and me when we look back at others and go, hey, why are you not taking these? It's important. Some people can always claim they're too busy, but if they're too busy, I think what they should not be looking at is cutting soul care, but looking at their calendar to find out why they're too busy.
Yeah, why are they overloaded?
Yeah, what are they overloaded? Do we need to hire another person? Do we need to get better? Do we need to work more hours? Do we need to start whatever it is? I mean, there's
I think that it goes back to the beginning too. It's like, what are your priorities?
Yeah.
Because you could spend like 4 or 5 hours on email in a day, but is that the highest and best use of your time?
Yeah.
So where do you cut for the other parts?
Yeah. I think when there's the trap of scrolling social media, right? Where we can just waste time after time. I think there are certain practices around the use of your time during the day, whether it be calendaring or how you work, like maybe not checking your email every 2 minutes, but working on one task to the next. Some of these, techniques where you work hard for 20 minutes, you take a 5-minute break, whatever it might be, where you can really accomplish more. And I would hope that we would be coaching our people up on that, or that they would ask the question, hey, how is it? Because, you're in my level. I feel like we have to be efficient with our calendar.
Yes.
We have to we have to make time for the unplanned crisis or meeting or whatever it might be, you have
to have that margin, because like I said, with those Thursday afternoons, those typically will end up being, if it's great if they're not, but normally this is a fire that I have to work on to put out this week.
Absolutely. In the soul care realm, how do we know when our schedule is just no longer sustainable? How do we know that?
Yeah, I think it was those red lines and the warning signs that we were talking about earlier. Yeah. It's that you've just been running so hard, and I think that's why the margin of what we do with our prayer retreat, our soul care days, is so important. Because I don't think a lot of times until you unplug, you realize how hot you've been running. Yeah. And I think when we give that margin to be able to think back of like, wow, this has been unsustainable, you have to have those moments to reflect. I think the other part of it is too, you've got to have people, and this is why those one-on-ones are super important and why we prioritize them so heavily. Yeah. Like, you've got to be able to have people reflect that back to you. Like, Bryce is really good as our admin, is like saying like, hey, your next 2 to 3 weeks are really booked. Yeah. Do you want me to try to change anything? Yeah. Or, having other people, like, I think that we work very closely together. Sure. Like, we notice when we're running hot. And so some of the people that are in our sphere of influence, to be able to reflect that back is important, because I think sometimes if leaders are task-oriented individuals that want to get things done, right? And so we'll put our head down and we'll go full tilt until we can't go anymore. So we've got to be willing to accept that feedback from the people around us.
Yeah, I think you're onto something here. Aside from the calendar, is developing the team where you have a healthy respect for one another, but also a healthy care where you're willing to say to someone, hey, man, I care about you. I'm praying for you. Just, hey, is there anything I can take off your plate?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I'll often go through this exercise with people that report to me and just tell them, hey, listen, you know, you need to divide out all your tasks into areas of importance, right? There are what I call the $1,000 task. That's something only you can do. Focus on those. There's $100 tasks. They're important.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, you can do a lot of those, but then you have $10 tasks and $1 tasks. Delegate the $1 tasks, or just don't do them. You know, the $10 ones, try to delegate most of those too. Just try to focus on what only you can do, and don't feel guilty about that.
Yeah,
you know, I think a lot of times people will worry about, well, I'm supposed to work this many hours from this time to this time, and I care more about them doing the right things and doing them well.
That's good.
You know,
that's a really important clarifier there too.
What are some mistakes that leaders make with their calendar?
Saying yes to too much.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I mean, it's right off the top of my head. It's like when you're in a certain level of leadership, you can be invited to 1,000 different things. And I think this is something that I've been cognizant of, like my first year in a new role in senior executive pastor, and the opportunities to go to a dinner, to be at a certain meeting, not to like do the politic thing, but just people want you to be a part of what they're doing. Yeah. And I know senior pastors experience this, but learning how to say no to all of that and really go back to what are the priorities. And for me, it's like my task is to make sure that our staff is serving in a capacity to where we're fulfilling our mission and our vision and our discipleship strategy. Right. So I've got to start looking through that lens of like, all right, is this the best opportunity for me to help that endeavor if I schedule this? And again, that just goes back to the prioritization. I know that we're kind of beating that same drum, but it really does come down to that, because I think that that's the greatest temptation. Because we also think, too, we're also tempted to think if our calendar's full that we're more important. So we allow more and more to come onto our calendar as leaders. And I think that that's a shadow side, as we're trying to make ourselves feel more important.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. You know, when you realize you're running from, you know, this to that, or you have a breakfast meeting and you've got a meeting tonight as well. Boy, I try to avoid that on my calendar. I mean, that happens, but man, that is, when that happens, I'll tell my wife, boy, tomorrow's going to be a marathon. You know? And it's generally because it's meeting to meeting. It's maybe breakfast meeting, lunch meeting, and then I've got a night meeting. Oh, boy, that's something I try to avoid.
Well, and I think too, like my stage of life, if I do that, like, my wife will not be very happy about that, because I got 4 kids. And it's like you can't just say yes to all of those things, and particularly not without asking the people around you how it impacts them. Not just even your family, but like if I say yes to a meeting, you know, certain lay leaders, that could put more burden back on my administrative assistant. The stuff that she didn't plan for. So I think that that's the biggest thing is what are you saying yes to, and what does that communicate when you're saying yes to it? Yeah,
I think you're really onto something there. What's a change that a leader could make to his calendar now that would have a pretty good immediate impact?
Oh, I think going back to what we were talking about earlier is, however you do your setup, if it's a month out or if you go week to week, whatever that may be, I think go ahead and bracketing to at least 2 hours during your week where it's white space for you to think and to review what you're called to do, what the vision is, what the mission is, and how are you moving that forward. So that would be a big thing for me, because that was a hard lesson for me to learn. Was like that's okay to schedule that. Like, because again, task oriented, I'm like, all right, if I schedule an hour on there, I need to do something with it. But to give myself the freedom and permission to do that, I think that will make a big difference in any leader's life.
What do you call that on your calendar when you schedule it? You just call it free time?
No.
What do you label it?
Normally, Bryce just puts block.
Okay.
Just so she knows.
It's
like
code for thinking.
Yeah, it's like do not book another meeting.
Sure.
You know, unless something urgent comes up. But that's really more of my time. I think if you create that margin, it's going to help you to be more productive and fulfilling priorities and not just tasks.
Yeah, I think where people often get into trouble on their calendar, personally and professionally, is that if somebody asks me to do something 3 months from now, it's easy to say, oh, sure, I'll do that.
Yeah.
But then, and you do that 2 or 3 times, and now that 3-month period comes and you realize, oh my goodness, I've got to go to a wedding, I've got to preach this Sunday, and I've got to do whatever I have, and it just adds up on you. But you can flip the script on that a little bit, and you can plan a soul care day for the next 6 months, and you can put it on your calendar. And hey, I've tried to do that. So when people say, hey, we've got this important meeting, it's next Thursday, I'm like,
Can't do it.
I can't do it. I can't do it, or I've already got these times blocked out. The best thing you can do is block those times now and then say no to other things that might fill them.
Get the big priorities.
One thing I've learned on calendar is be very careful about what you're going to agree to that's months away.
Yes.
Because it's so easy just to say, yeah, sure, I can do that, and then later on go, what was I thinking?
Yeah. Well, and that's why getting those top priorities, like for us, we book our one-on-ones pretty much the same cadence of whatever it is every month, so that we can plan that out for a year. We can put in, like, I know my soul care days are the last Wednesday of every month, so you put that in first, and then you build around it, and then that way you can protect yourself.
That's it. I mean, I think protecting yourself through planning for the future now in a good way is helpful. Probably about now at the end of last year, my daughter was going to get married, and I had said yes to a few things leading up to that, and so I was speaking at a conference, and then I was leading a mission journey, and then my daughter wanted me to learn a special dance for Daddy. Well, I wasn't going to let her down on that, and I was going to do the wedding, so I could not screw that up, man. It had to be perfect, and so I was literally in Spain in an apartment while we're supposed to be doing stuff. I'm trying to learn a dance off a video, and my friends thought that was pretty funny. I mean, it all worked out, but in hindsight, I thought, what was I thinking, man? Because I just stacked things on top, and they were all important and good things.
Good things,
right? It's like eating too many good things. It's not good for you. It just isn't. And so, if someone looked at your calendar for the next month, what would you want it to say about your leadership?
I would hope. That's a good question. I would hope that it shows that I value people. Yeah. Because I would think that, just off the top of my head, over 50% of my calendar is booked with meetings with people. Yeah. Not just our regular operational meetings, but it's my one-on-ones. It's connecting with leaders. So I hope that it would show that my leadership is people-oriented and people-centric, that I'm coming alongside of them to accomplish a common goal.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. I feel the same way, that we're, especially in the stage of life we're at and what we do as a team and how we're trying to model that for our people. We need to let them know, hey, we care. We're relationally available to them, and we're also using God-given gifts that we have to try to manage an organization. But it's not just about the organization. The organization is the people. And that we value that. So super helpful today, Brian. Just let me thank you for the conversation. I think that healthy leadership starts with intentional rhythms, and it just does. And if today's episode encouraged you, we'd love for you to join us at the Elevate Church Conference. It's coming up September 21st and 22nd. You can learn more and register at elevatechurchconference.com. Well, thanks for listening to the Brentwood Baptist Leadership Podcast, and I will see you next week.